So what other sort of risks and threat vectors are we looking at here, Kevin?
So really, I mean, what we're trying to facilitate and enable this human firewall to be able to do is to identify and be vigilant around identifying any kind of risks or threats that may face an organization or an individual. Um, Initially, things like suspicious requests, should this person be asking for this information? Should they have access to this information? Should I give them access to those systems? Should I not? Um, is this appropriate right now? So these are often the questions that people can easily forget to ask when they are busy and they have a list of tasks to tick off, and the request seems quite credible. Unusual network activity. Often we consider this to be the role of what our IT team or security team or SIEM or SOC is doing in terms of monitoring patterns of behavior and accessibility. And that is absolutely the core of identifying something that may not look right. But also, that doesn't mean to say that an individual working in an environment who is accessing content in shared drives in Teams or SharePoint or Google Drive wouldn't notice that files were downloaded or modified by individuals that they wouldn't expect. And these sort of things should trigger questions to ask why and should that have actually happened. Unauthorized software or devices. Now, this is an ongoing challenge for all organizations, whereby teams and individuals suddenly decide that, oh, there's a really useful application that I found online that will increase my productivity, or this customer's asked us if we can use this particular platform because that works for them, without going through the process of establishing whether or not it meets the security requirements within the organization. These are never things people do to actively flout security controls, but they're trying to be more productive in their roles, but don't necessarily recognize the risks of a proliferated shadow IT environment springing up around the organization, or the process that the IT and security teams go through in order to validate and ensure that the systems that they are using are complementary, secure, and appropriate for that given organization. And then there's the risk of inadequate security training and employees not necessarily asking questions about, oh, can you give me more information about this, but accepting the fact that the information that they are given is complete and appropriate for the organization. And the other things to consider, we mentioned earlier around social media content resulting in more effective spear phishing campaigns. So that kind of, where does security training start and end? Well, when we deliver security training to organizations, we encompass best practices both at work and at home, because in this day and age, that differentiation is not as clear as it used to be. We don't go to work and we work here in a closed environment. We work from home for many people almost exclusively, and going to the office is very much a lesser part of our role. Therefore, what we do in our personal life with regards to security processes needs to be reflective of what we do from a business perspective to ensure things are as safe as they can be. And this can apply to the kind of human error element, and one of those things is potentially the malicious insiders. So they can slip through the net in terms of whether or not an organization is applying appropriate controls when they are hiring people to ensure that people don't have a dubious background, or the fact that you get people that may have checked project out within that organization and seek to actively disrupt operations or sabotage systems in some way. We've all heard the horror stories of the IT guy leaving and then smashing stuff up as he left. Whether they are true or not is a different matter. Careless employees, well, that's something that can happen to anyone. Everybody makes mistakes. The most common one, of course, that we are now painfully aware of is the reply to all, CC the entire company on information that may include sensitive data that is not should not be publicly available. The response that I put the wrong attachment on this email and I sent one client another client's contract with that detail in it. These are things that are very difficult to avoid, but they are human errors that can be mitigated through technical controls and improved training. Compromised accounts. These could be those accounts that have been compromised through a phishing campaign, inappropriate sharing of credentials. These things still happen quite commonly. So there is a shared account where everyone has access. Therefore, it becomes difficult to understand who has access and whether or not the subgroup that should actually do, and whether or not it has been extended beyond that. And then the final thing, kind of a bedfellow of that really, is the privilege abuse. So as we were, me and Steve were discussing earlier, we were talking about the joiners, movers, leavers process, whereby access levels need to be initially set up correctly, minimum access requirements. If people move roles, then obviously access within an organization's infrastructure needs to change, and access to different systems need to be added or removed. And then when people leave, those privileges should be removed immediately, so they can no longer access information. However, what we are very aware of is the movers part is the most challenging piece. So when an individual moves interdepartmentally, are those privileges amended accordingly, and could they be used to nefarious means, or for people to have access to information that they should no longer have access to? So Steve, how do we improve our defenses through strategy?
Well, that's really good. It's about, again, it always seems to fall to me to say that it's all the responsibility of the C-suite, but it really is down to leadership, and it's about the business leaders identifying where the weaknesses are within their defenses, where the threats are going to come from, and then being able to put in place the correct sort of, as we were speaking earlier, the correct governance, the correct policies, procedures and training to be able to make sure that the vigilance of those people on the front line, the humans that are the first line of defense in identifying and responding to threats, that they have the knowledge, the tools and the knowledge, tools and abilities to be able to respond to and detect, respond and protect the business. Because that firewall is going to consist of trained, aware and proactive employees who, as I say, can recognize and react to suspicious activities. And then these people should be supported with integrated technology, which should complement the defenses that they're able to do. They should be able to address the nuances and complexities of social engineering attacks that technology alone may not detect. And again, the impact of having improved technology will reduce the impact of attacks by identifying and responding to threats promptly. This way, the human firewall can significantly reduce the potential impact of cyber attacks, especially when it's supported by that integrated technology. But what we have to really be aware of is making sure that we don't become complacent in our approach. We have to make sure that we create an environment where security is prioritized and rewarded. Leadership should model and reinforce the importance of cybersecurity, and we need to strike the right balance between robust security measures and user convenience. This is absolutely crucial because it's no good making everything secure if the employees are unable to do the jobs that we've employed them to do. But we do have to involve the employees in the development of security policies to ensure that we don't do things that are impractical. Then that by involving everybody in the development of security policies, or at least by listening to people, it will ensure that we're able to do practical and effective security measures, which will lead to a fully integrated approach, because it's an effective cybersecurity strategy requires an integrated approach that combines technological defenses with strong human activities to emphasize the importance of continuous improvement and adaptation to evolving cyber threats. And there it is again, it's that phrase, continuous improvement and training. It's really what we're talking about. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a threat detection system. We're trying to get to the point where our employees are able to detect and respond to the threats that they're facing without missing a beat. We need them to keep abreast of threat intelligence. Employees should be encouraged to stay informed about the latest cyber threat trends through regular updates from security teams, security feeds, and we could always include briefings on new types of phishing scams and malware, because employees can notice and report unusual behaviours, such as colleagues accessing files that they shouldn't be accessing, which goes directly back to what Kevin was talking about with regards to the JML processes. We need to make sure that employees are trained to identify phishing attempts and other social engineering tactics by recognising suspicious emails, messages and phone calls. And this is, of course, going to become harder as AI and deep fakes are used more often to persuade people to deposit large sums of money into nefarious bank accounts. And we need to have good, clear channels for incident reporting and response. Protocols for incident reporting that allow employees to quickly escalate suspicious activities, because the sooner we can report something, the sooner it can be investigated and the sooner it can either be stopped or ignored. This ensures timely investigation and response, mitigating the potential damage that could occur. And as I was saying before, and I think we say it on just about every slide, continuous education and training is the key to a really good and secure first line of defense. Ongoing cybersecurity training programs all really do help employees to stay updated on the latest threats and best practices. And I think that sort of is really what we need to look at, because I think spear phishing and phishing attacks, Kevin, are probably one of the most potent ways that people are able to infiltrate organizations. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, for the most part, phishing campaigns, spear phishing campaigns, and some of these lists here, the pretexting, the baiting, even tailgating in a physical sense, all often, well, often they are all predicated on a social engineering component, and they all require a certain level of trust in order for them to be able to work. So they've got to be compelling and look reasonable, and be able and influence an individual to interact with it in a way that enables them to do the thing that you want them to do, i.e. click the link, download the executable file, let you pass through the barriers with your 2 cups of hot coffee, because you haven't got your hands free. I mean, all of these things, what we're looking to do really is to ensure that people are aware that these are the things that are happening, and that what's being preyed upon often, and one of the most effective elements to a successful social engineering attack is empathy. So you're trying to help somebody, and one of my favorites recently was the MGM attack, whereby a well-organized group identified the individuals who were working in the IT environment of that organization, tracked somebody who said they were going on holiday, and then when they were on holiday, phoned up, pretended to be that person, and asked for a password reset. Said password reset was completed by a very helpful person on the help desk who felt sorry for the individual who was on a beach on holiday, which they knew, and was asked to do something for work. Therefore, affected that change, and the result of that was a vast amount of money being lost by that organization, and we're talking in the hundreds of millions when you consider how much cash flow a multitude of physical casinos manage on an ongoing basis. So it's one of those things, and I think, you mentioned it earlier, Steve. When it comes to people being fooled into those things, we need to be very aware of the fact that people are just trying to help. It's not deliberate, but the only thing that we can do is to make sure that they are aware of the possibilities that that's happening, and feel comfortable and supported in questioning them, in order to make sure that the most obvious attacks don't slip through the net.